What really is the Thessalonian error? In 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, Paul encouraged the Thessalonian believers to persevere in adversity. And he reassures them that these tribulations are not the eschatological day of the Lord's judgment, and that God will deliver his people for rest and glorification at Christ's revelation. Continuing this topic of the eschatological judgment into 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, Paul gives additional reassurance to the Thessalonians that they are not experiencing the day of the Lord's wrath. And he does this through describing two prophesied events that must happen before the day of the Lord. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, Paul stressed that the day of the Lord will come. In chapter 2, he stressed that the day of the Lord has not come. The false teachers in Thessalonica did not deny the teaching of a day of the Lord. In fact, they affirmed it. Their false teaching was persuading the Thessalonians that it had already begun. Since Paul had previously taught that the Thessalonians would be delivered from the Lord's wrath in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 9, we can imagine the Thessalonians' frightened state of mind, thinking that they had been left for judgment. So Paul must combat this false teaching immediately here in his second epistle. This same Thessalonian trepidation may, I believe, it can reoccur in the future when the Antichrist arrives. You know, many Christians, they've been taught all their lives that the Antichrist Great Tribulation is the day of the Lord's wrath. And they're going to think that they're experiencing God's eschatological wrath when the Antichrist arrives. And this is going to cause unnecessary despair if we do not correctly understand that Jesus will return to cut short those days of the Antichrist Great Tribulation to rapture the church. And only then God will pour out his day of the Lord's wrath upon the world. So the Thessalonian error, I believe, I'm afraid, may occur in the future during the Great Tribulation, and it's going to recur because many people think that they're going to be raptured out of here before the Antichrist arrives. And what many do not understand is that the Antichrist Great Tribulation and the day of the Lord's wrath, these are two separate events, two different purposes. The Antichrist Great Tribulation is against Israel and it's against the church. I mean, the world is going to love the Antichrist, okay? Where with God's wrath will be, during the day of the Lord's wrath, is going to be, the object of wrath is going to be the world. If you want to learn more about this is my book, Antichrist Before the Day of the Lord, what every Christian needs to know about the return of Christ. You can get it on Amazon, or I will leave a link in the show notes and you can purchase a copy of this book.